Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm going to tell you about Arbor Adventures, Session 4, and this is the second part. So at this point, Duolos and his brother, who he has just found his brother, right? And oh yeah, and I could tell you about what happened when they, when there was a moment. So so it's Duolos, his brother, and dwarf leader Eof, who is under the dwarf leader minor Thera. Thera leads all the dwarven leaders, the dwarf miners in Phandalin, but Thera is just the leader of the Garnet mine specifically, right? So pretty interesting. And so at this point, so there really wasn't time. Well, actually, so basically he gets so Duolos finds his brother, and so and they have a moment. I said, you have a moment where you see your brother, and I was like, what is your interaction with your brother? Do you it's been years since you've seen him. Do you embrace him? Or do you greet him? What do you do, right? And what Duolos did was he said what the Gold Dragon Master said was that Duolos said to his brother, there's no time for us to meet properly, and then just gave all the information about we're all going to die because there's a bunch of water coming in, which I understand, right? But you'll see that this comes in later. Duolos is very classic dark assassin, right? Dark cape, dark cow, dark heart, right? This guy is hardcore, right? And so when he meets his brother, there isn't any love lost between them, right? And he doesn't express any love for his brother. And this becomes a problem later, which you're going to see. Okay. So Duolos, dwarf leader Eof, and his brother and two dwarf miners make it safely to Neverwinter through this teleportation portal. Now I explained to the Gold Dragon Master that 54 dwarves died. So 54 dwarves died were killed by the water, right? And he had saw evidence of this, right? And I assured him, and at this point, one of the things I'm trying to, kind of express to the Gold Dragon Master is he is this powerful adventurer, right? And I'm really fascinated by this too, because I don't think that, I'm not sure Dungeons and Dragons adventurers think of this, but today in IRL, information is so valuable. And if you know what's happening in an area, you can really use it powerfully today, right? And a lot of businesses today, this is how they make profit, is being aware of a situation and then making moves to maximize the profit on that, right? And so I'm trying to explain to Gold Dragon Master that you are now aware of something, right? The Phandalin woodcutters and the Phandalin miners are going to go to war. They're going to be killing each other left and right. There's, as it stands, right? Because woodcutter Demeth has done a terrible thing, right? And the response is almost certain to come from the dwarf miners, right? So he's aware of this before anybody else is, right? So he is hundreds of miles from Phandalin. He's in Phandalin, which is hundreds of miles away from Phandalin. So he's in Neverwinter, which is hundreds of miles away from Phandalin. But there is a war that has just broken out, right? And so I thought that was kind of interesting that he has this information. And any merchant in the city, right, could make a fortune with just this information alone. Just the information alone that there's a war going to break out in Phandalin could be worth literally tens of thousands of gold easily, right? So now one thing is though, and I've seen this with a lot of Dragon Masters, right? At this point, Gold Dragon Master is that's not my war, right? The dwarves and the woodcutters are going to war, but this is, this doesn't have anything to me. to do with me, because it's kind of very like non-interventionist, right? So very interesting, right? And one thing too, like, I don't really like non-interventionism in real life, right? But one of the things that, and I'm trying to grow as a dungeon master, right? But we have to, when we're judging dragon masters, they are a unique identity. We need to, give them the leeway they need to, like, be different. And the reason why is it's not the entire point. It's one distinct point of Dungeons and Dragons, is it allows us to have these unique identities, and some parts can be complete mirrors of ourselves, and other parts can be the reverse, an inversion of the mirror, right? And I think it's such a powerful part of Dungeons and Dragons, and I absolutely love it. So at this point, now here's what's really interesting. Right before they go through the teleportation circle, I let the Gold Dragon Master roll this D6 and then choose who came forward. Now, he knew that Duolos was seeking after Voronway, right? And the Gold Dragon Master chose to have Voronway die in the river split, right? She was, the door was left open, and not everybody was going to be able to make it. Everybody knew it was dangerous, right? And so the Gold Dragon Master chose to allow Voronway to die. Now, he was right. Voronway was a very powerful, knowledgeable, major non-player character, and she had desires that absolutely could have changed Duolos' relationship to Thove, the hate of Vecna, this cursed dagger. And she wanted things that he didn't want, right? So this very much simplified his life, but it also becomes another point of contention between him specifically and his brother, right? So he sees his brother. He's like, we ain't got time for any kind of a good congenial greeting. No hug for you. And then he's like, oh, and your girlfriend that you just got, she's dead. Like, so now Duolos is not responsible for that, right? And like the Gold Dragon Master is responsible for that, right? But not Duolos. Duolos could not. He was there in the moment. He had to be dragged out of that room by Grax's muscle, right? So Duolos is absolutely not responsible for the death of Voronway. However, the Gold Dragon Master is. Again, fascinating. Dungeons & Dragons is such an amazing game. It's such an amazing experience. Yes. So it really is powerful, right? And so I was just blown away with everything that was happening I'm blown away with everything that's happening in the campaign. It's truly incredible, right? So at this point, Voronway is dead, okay? So Voronway wanted to use the hate of Vecna. She wanted her own life to be taken with the hate of Vecna, the cursed blade that Duolos has. And then she was going to allow her spirit to go back to Vecna, and she was prepared for this will challenge. And she really believed that she could take over Vecna, that she could shove Vecna to the back of his own body, his own power source, his own lichhood, right? And take him over and use Vecna as a force for become the new Vecna, that Voronway could become the new Vecna and use all of his power for good. And that Vecna would just be one of the souls that would be cast into the depth of the vessel that used to be Vecna, right? So she's dead, right? And this was fascinating because I had everything planned in my head. Now this ain't my first rodeo. I've been a dungeon master for a long time, and I do not write 2-3 sessions ahead because I don't want to railroad, right? But I had already thought in my head, okay, well, these are the conversations that are going to happen with Voronway and between Voronway and between Duolos' brother and between Duolos. None of that's going to happen now. She's dead, right? It's really fascinating. Right? I think that's that. And the story took this massively different approach. This story just took a massively different direction, right? It changed completely, right? And so at this point, we get to Neverwinter, and Eof, and so Eof introduces, Dwarf Leader Eof introduces Duolos and his brother to Jesp. Now, Jesp is a very rich garnet merchant who lives in his own mansion, which is a manse. It's a cooler name for it, which is a manse in Neverwinter. And they were able to teleport here because that teleportation circle was set up there so that garnet could be brought very quickly to his home. It's one of the reasons why he's so rich, right? And so at this point, so finally, Duolos is in a safe space, his brother's in a safe space, and Eof's in a safe place. And that is in the Neverwinter manse of Tiefling garnet merchant Jesp, right? And that's where we're going to leave it off for this portion of session 4. And I'll tell you more in the next video. Thank you guys so much for letting me share this with you. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion about the coolest parts of session 4. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion about Dungeons & Dragons, about Crown and Skull, about Neverwinter. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.